We're making a comic book, and you're going to get to follow us on every step along the way. So, let's take a walk to the Geek Shop.
Okay, welcome back to Geek Shop. I'm Chetan, and you are?
I'm Chris.
Welcome back. So today we are going to talk about stories and how we create our stories and what we're doing. And recently I asked Chris if he wanted to write a 20-page TikTok Tom story. It would be the idea would be to introduce readers to the TikTok Tom universe with our characters TikTok Tom, Jack, and Iggy, and all the other strange people who appear in the book. It's a one-shot story that would introduce the characters, the universe, and and I suggested to Chris that he writes the story, I would draw it. So Chris,
Yep.
do you want to take it away?
Sure. I mean, I have a very loose idea for a story, and I wanted to kind of pitch this to you, and I thought this is a great way to pitch it to you would be here, because we're actually chatting with each other. So my concept, and I thought we could, and see if you like this idea, we merge this into a podcast comic book. So basically, we could do maybe like 5 or 6 characters, each of them being interviewed in a podcast, and they're talking about the craziest adventures they've had together as a group. And so like the first, you could have like, basically it would just be like, it would start off with just like Tom sitting in a chair, and then there'll be a question, which will be the person interviewing them saying, so Tom, like, what's the weirdest adventure you've ever been on? And you could talk about actual adventures that you've actually written about, or we could just make up new ones. And so the comic book would sort of be, there'd be like 2 or 3 pages of like this crazy adventure he had. And then, and it would basically, like we do in this podcast, we do the 3 questions. So I thought we could come up with 3 questions that we'd ask the TikTok Tom characters, and we'd ask all 3 of them the same question. And then sort of there'd be like maybe like a 1 or 2 page, each answer would be like a 1 or 2 page flashback to that answer. So one of them could be like the craziest adventure, who's their best friend and why. And then I was trying to think of another one. Like I couldn't think of another 3rd question, but I thought like craziest adventure and who's their best friend and why. And then maybe like one more question. And we could do something silly like we do, like, who would win in a fight between Hulk and Superman, but it could
that has to be asked, because we've already asked that question so many times to a lot of creative people, and we've gotten a lot of strange response.
So like in the TikTok Tom world, who would win it? You could ask them. So the 3 questions: your craziest adventure, who's your best friend and why, and who would win in a fight, Hulk or Superman? Or we could do Walrus Boy, and is there another character in the TikTok Tom universe?
Blue Orchid.
Who would win in a fight, Walrus Boy or Blue Orchid?
Blue Orchid, yeah.
And so you have these like...
Now,
so
just to let you know, Blue Orchid is a comic Chris works on, so it'd be a crossover.
Exactly. We've had a crossover before in the past, but we can do it again for sure. And so I just thought that it would be kind of interesting to sort of like, and the issue could be called Geek Shop. And so it'd be like the ultimate crossover. So it's us, and like it would be almost like breaking the 4th wall. So like we're characters where it'd be like me and you interviewing the TikTok Tom characters about the TikTok Tom comic book.
Okay, that's going to become so surreal,
Exactly.
But it would be great. And
it would be so weird. So I thought, like, how do we incorporate, since I figured we were coming up with this, the idea of coming up with this in Geek Shop, and it sort of came out through Geek Shop. So why not, like, bring Geek Shop into the TikTok Tom universe?
Yeah. We had a guy, just for the viewers, we did a show at the Mississauga Library in Toronto, Mississauga, Ontario, near Toronto. It was a library comic book festival convention, if you want to call it. And one of the guys walking by looked at our book, and he looked at it, he goes, and that's what he said, he goes, this looks really strange and weird. It reminds me of The Invisibles. And I told him, I go, I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan, so that's a compliment. And what you just described just goes in that same what do you call it, territory.
Exactly. So I mean, I think it'll be like a really, I guess the trick is how many characters do we want to interview? And I'm thinking, Tom, we could do all the characters except Tom. And so the idea being that they're sort of describing their life with Tom, or we could include Tom, like to have Tom, Iggy, Jack, and
Stinky on the corner.
Stinky, and maybe Jean, the pigeon.
Yeah. And not introducing Tom is a great idea because we had this talk before where Tom Yo and I did this story where, our temptation story where it starts off our character Stinky on the corner and Jack. And I think it was like until 40 pages into the book, Tom brought it up saying, TikTok Tom hasn't even appeared in the story. And that's the only reason he appeared in the story, because we just put him, because it was mentioned. Otherwise, we didn't even think about him. So that's a great idea.
So we could do it. And if we want it, and we could even try introducing Madame 666. We could interview her.
Yeah.
So we could have like Jean, Iggy,
like the old school investigative reporting, when they go around and talking to mobsters and shady people and all that stuff.
Exactly. So we could have Jean, we could have Iggy, we could have Stinky, we could have Madame 666, and we could have, I don't know. I'm missing a character. Which character am I missing?
There's other characters who appear through, in the background and stuff like that, but those are the major ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So
now, just have Tom and Derek just introduced a new character called, what's his name? Pete. I forgot his. He has a handle. I can't remember his full name. Pete. It's in an upcoming story that's coming out. He's a rat.
Okay.
And he meets John, the talking pigeon.
That's awesome. So I just think the idea of I think it would be a really good way that we could kind of introduce the characters, as you said in the beginning of this, to new readers, because you're sort of getting their idea. And I think that when they talk about their craziest adventures, like Tom should always be involved with that.
Oh, that's it. Yes.
But and we could, again, we don't have to necessarily follow stories that have already happened. We could make up new stories that are like the craziest thing that's ever happened to them. Except I think one of the good ones would be for Stinky, because he's always just by the box. It'll be like the time that he brought him a coffee and it was really hot, like a really lame story. Like even though he's been through all these crazy things, it's like, oh no, he just brought this coffee and it was like really hot, but it tasted really good. Like just a really lame story for him. But all the other characters are on these like crazy adventures, and we could just sort of write up these stories. And so we'll do the 3 questions.
So let's do this. For anyone who doesn't know about us, let's explain. For TikTok Tom characters in the storyline, please check out our website, tiktoktom.com, or our Instagram page or Facebook page. Chris's Blue Orchid is again on Instagram and Facebook, and check out his website also. Now, for the TikTok Tom universe, our story focuses around a character called TikTok Tom, who time travels, blow things up, and just everyday life not everyday life situations, weird situations. And he hangs around his friends Iggy, who works for a company called Kill For You, and she basically kills bad people. And there's also Jack Shit, who knows everything, and he hangs around Tom, and he loves coffee. He's always at the coffee shop. And what Chris mentioned, Stinky is a character that lives and works on a street corner guarding a mystery box, and Jack brings him coffee every day. So that's perfect. And Sean is a fedora wearing, tie wearing, tennis shoes wearing pigeon that talks. Yep. So these are our main characters in our story, and the coffee idea would fit around perfect because coffee is our secondary theme in our comics. Coffee is always mentioned in our comics.
Yeah, so I think that would work, and I think that just having this idea of if we have them just all answering the same questions, it'll be interesting to see how they tie together and how they don't.
But I like your idea of, I would say don't have Tom in this main story as being interviewed, but references to him from every character. So he's there, but he's really not there. And that coffee
Exactly.
idea was Stinky is, I love that idea.
Yeah, I think it works perfectly. So I think it's just a question of like figuring out what the surreal stories are. I mean, I think Iggy's story should be like ultra violent.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I'm thinking maybe we should even, if we could take it to like a Simon Beasley level of silly.
Oh,
'cause the
that
other
would
thing
be
too is
perfect.
we're listening to them describe the story, so it doesn't even have to be accurate to what actually happened.
Yeah.
It could be like it's from their point of view. So like Iggy's going to want everything to be like this ultra violent, and I was even thinking like the styles could be a little different when we're looking in their memories.
Just
So,
think
like,
about
Iggy
think about a news reporter reporting, some area and the person with hair rollers in her head and all this going overboard with everything that's happened. It could have been just her phone falling onto the ground, but she's making it into a big dramatic
Yeah.
nationwide incident.
So I was thinking all of Iggy's answers will be like ultra violent, except maybe the answer to the last question where she'll think, maybe just as a contrast, she'll get really cute.
Yeah, why would
Just
they
because
fight?
she can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
just something
it.
like, oh, they should be friends, you know?
Yeah, that's it.
Something like that. And then I thought with Jack, because he's sort of like a know-it-all, right? Like just have him like be like, it's sort of filled with facts. Like he's so factual about it, but it doesn't seem quite right. You know, it's just a little bit off. And then I thought Stinky, like just the most boring story possible.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, just nothing cool for any of his answers. Just like really
See,
dull. Because
See, you got him perfectly because my idea for Stinky was, the guy on the corner who's so bored he'll talk to anyone, like an old man in a nursing home,
Yeah.
Where he wants company because he's guarding that box and he's by himself. So anyone who walks by, strike up a conversation that could last for hours and hours.
Yeah, and for Jean, we could even do it like an old like pulp or mystery thing. So sort of black and white, really heavy tones. So he's like narrating like, so the dame walked into my office and
That's why. And I forgot to mention that Tom Yo created that character, and with him, wearing a fedora, smoking, all this, he's a private eye. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah,
So that
like
fit, like the Philip Marlowe type of approach.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought Madame 666 is just annoyed that she's being asked about these people.
Yeah.
Like she's just enraged that like, why am I on a podcast talking about these people that particularly there's one person that I absolutely detest. And so it's just her rage about, being like, how did I get here? Why am I here? Why am I answering these questions? And this horrible TikTok Tom person, and just so it's constant. It's just her raging about how much she hates them.
See, I love this idea.
So that'll be it. We can do 5 stories if we do 20 pages. So each character gets basically, it'll be like half a page will be the introduction, them being asked the questions, then they start to answer it, and then it'll be about a page for each question, and then the last and then another half page for like just sort of thank you for being in the interview. And it's each character will have like a different ending to being thank you, like what is it, like Iggy would be all jacked up and like excited about telling her story, and Madame 666 will be like just so enraged, like trashing the studio she's in because she's just so mad that she had to sit through this.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what was I thinking? I don't know, like Jack could just be like, sitting there looking a lot smarter than he actually is.
I would say for Stinky, here's an idea. Have the Stinky talking and the interviewer just walking away while he keeps talking.
just so bored. Have the interviewer walk in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's it.
Just
Yeah.
like, oh god,
Yeah.
we're not going to
You
use
know,
any of this footage.
Yeah, it's like that whole saying who would win a fight, Hulk or Superman, and he goes on a rant, on and on,
Yeah.
It's
Well, it'd be
it's
funny
like
if his stuff's like really short. If all of his stories are really short, except that last one, and it's just
Yeah.
the longest rant possible.
longest rant, yeah. It's like was it years ago on going a little bit off topic. Years ago on Facebook, I put a thing up. Who would win in a fight, Superman versus Hulk, and one of my friends posted going, "Well, which planet would they be fighting on?" And I just go, "You just went beyond geek level now." Yeah. I go. It's a simple question. Now you just took it elsewhere now.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this will work. I think the story should work. So, I'm going to write up some ideas. I'll write this all down, sort of our basic thing, and do a basic plot summary, and maybe we can even do a second episode of Geek Shop, and we'll go over the script.
Oh, that's it. Do a step-by-step approach to everything on that.
Yep, for sure. So,
Oh no, this is a good idea. And like I said, when I approached Chris with the idea, it was just the idea like Chris and I worked together for so many times, and I just wanted him to, he's had a lot of good ideas and stuff, and I just wanted him to help out a story because sometimes I hate to say it, this is where the writer's artist block comes in, where you want to write a story, but you're stuck with ideas. And this is to our previous episode where we did an episode on artist block, and this is why I asked Chris to do it, because I was just like, I'm staring at a page, like even drawing wise and writing wise, staring at a page going, I have no ideas, for this 20-page story. But other stories, I have hundreds of ideas. But this one, my brain's not processing anything. Question for you. Let's say for this story, when the reporter, the interviewer goes around interviewing all these characters and stuff, who is it? Is it us? Because we're doing Geek Shop and we're doing our podcast. So do we appear?
I think it should be us.
So we appear in our story, then we talk about it on our podcast. There's some, what do you call it? What is that term? I can't remember that term where, you become your characters, then, interact with them.
I guess it's meta, but but yeah, I think it should be us asking the questions, and I think we should even ask it in the same way that we sort of ask it on Geek Shop, where it's very sort of like when we do our interviews at the shows, it's very sort of like planned out and meticulous. Like you sort of ask use the same wording for each one and everything like that. So I think that would be good. And I think it might be kind of fun because like when we do the Iggy story, because she's such sort of like a violent character, she could be like attacking us, and one of us could be like running away and the other one could be like getting beat up. Like there's all these types of things you could add to it where it's like this super meta, and like with Stinky, it's like, we could have like, just maybe one of us is asleep and the other one just walks out. and so with Jack, it could be like, with Jack's story is the one I'm having the hardest time. Like I don't have like an idea for a story of how he's going to be in the interview. I think of all the characters, he's the hardest one for me to read myself. Like he's the one that I understand and know the least about. So I might have to get some consulting on you. Even if you do you have ideas? Do you have ideas now that you could think of for Jack's story?
For Jack, I would say, you know what? Honestly, I would say something happening at the coffee shop.
Okay.
But
it would be weird, right?
Now, here's now to the people watching this. Our story with the coffee shop is called Prince of Dark Grove's Cafe. Now, what it is in a previous story, it's a coffee chain owned by Hell. So Jack goes there, and basically one of the taglines we used in one of our stories is "One sip and they got your soul."
Okay.
And it's how caffeine's addictive, but Hell uses that to get your soul. And maybe something like that. Maybe do something, according to that. Maybe, Jack gets, what do you call it, visions of hell and stuff. In one of our stories, Jack did go to hell. So, we could do something like that.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds perfect. So that would be his craziest adventure. And I'm thinking for their like best, like the second question is who's their best friend?
I would say,
And so I just thought that
personally, I would, when you mentioned that earlier, I would say everyone would say something, a character that has never appeared.
okay.
That way,
How do they all love Jean?
yeah, that's a great idea. I was thinking that also. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
then, later on, maybe just have a comment saying, maybe have the, us, the reporters, interviewers saying, why did you guys, so many of you picked him, and everyone was saying, oh, no one picked me.
And they're all upset.
Yeah.
Except Madame 666 who hates like
Everyone,
Jean.
yeah.
She likes Jean too. She's like, I hate all these guys except that Jean guy seems okay.
Yeah. See, that would be perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect.
So yeah. I think that works. I think that works. So I think the other thing we'll do for like Geek Shop listeners and everything is I'll write out a rough script, and maybe in a future episode we will pick up that rough script and sort of talk it over and iron it out together. But I will post the scripts so that way anybody for our next episode that we do this, and so people can download it and read the scripts and find out sort of like what a script looks like for us.
See, that's a perfect idea, because the previous episodes we talked about not in our we talked about how we do our layouts, how we do our scripts and stuff. It would be good to now actually show it from concept idea now, like our what do you call it meeting now, talking about throwing ideas, to putting it on paper as writing wise, or and on the computer, writing as a script, then thumbnails, pencils, inks, coloring if it's needed, and even printing.
Yep.
Just go through every single step in process.
That's what we're going to do for our fans.
Yeah, and that way at least people know how we come up with ideas. And honestly, to a lot of our viewers watching now, I don't mean to sound it in a bad way, but this is a lot of times how we come up with our ideas. We're sometimes sitting around talking, and someone would throw an idea and go, hey, wait a minute, that would be great. Recently, Derek the Destroyer has a handle on Instagram. He's one of the writers who's helping me with our next book. Him and Tom, we were messaging back and forth, and Tom, I think, was just he was attached to the email also, and we were throwing ideas. Derek threw me some ideas at me, and I'm going, wow, this is great. So I recommend some ideas. Then Tom recommended ideas. Next thing you know, we have tons of ideas for stories and how to do things, and we don't just go, hey, you go and write that story. Sit down and write that story.
Yeah.
Sometimes we throw around ideas and help each other. And this is how we work. We're a community.
Exactly. And I mean, that's even with stuff like Blue Orchid, it's not like you can't live in a vacuum. Even if it's my own, because Blue Orchid is my entire, like I write and draw the entire thing, but like it's not in a vacuum by any stretch. Like I hear ideas from other people that buy it and they give comments and everything like that. So it's like, but with TikTok Tom, it's such a collaborative book that we are just constantly talking about ideas. So I think this is the best example of showing how community is so important.
That's it.
But the other
yes.
question I wanted to ask you, which I don't think we covered, is what are we doing with this story afterwards?
Okay, so the idea was originally my plan was recently I went to a Mississauga comic convention at the library. And people walking around, we have so many books. Take a look on our website. And every book ranges from $5 to $40 a book. Now, original idea was to do a self-contained story that we could take around and say, hey, even have it at comic shops to sell, and just say, you know what, this represents us. It's our book. You don't have to read a 80-page, 100. We do a lot of epic stories. Our next book is going to be at least 200 pages. So, we don't do short stories that often. 20 pages, we rarely do 20-page stories. We have grand ideas. And so this is just a introduction and just a starting point for readers, and also quirky story for people who enjoy our weird universe.
Yeah, that's why when you mentioned that idea to me, like when I had this idea of like interviewing the characters, I thought this is perfect because we're almost bluntly saying, you know, this is remember the DC used to have the Who's Who comic
Yes,
books?
that's it. Yes.
That's what this is basically turning into.
Yes, and Tom just sent me a link on a guy reviewing a Who's Who, and it falls into the perfect thing, and that was the main idea. It's what I try to do in a lot of our books is page one or something. I try and introduce some of the characters, you know, just so that readers are not completely confused on it. But I haven't had any. I haven't had any readers, you know, come back and say, I don't understand your characters and stuff like that. I think all of us, and I'm just speaking on behalf of myself and Tom Yo, who have done a lot of stories, we tend to really go into the characters. So, you know who the characters are by page 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, but I like this idea. I like this idea of having sort of a, so it basically somebody comes up to you at a show and is like, so who are these characters? He goes, read this.
That's it. That's the perfect way of doing it. And also, again, this is me as a, trying to get new readers and people interested in the book. A reason I want to do a 20-page book is it's a standard comic size book, and also keep the price down. Also, maybe, like, I'm just guessing, sell it for $5. That way it's a reasonable price for a 20-page book. And just,
Yep.
because, one thing a couple of people have brought up is, if someone comes up to our table at a show or something, they might look at the book and go, I don't want to spend $20 on this book. I don't know what it's about. They're hesitant on that. But on the other hand, I have had people buy our $40 books who've never read our book. And, when they look at the 600 pages, they go, wow, you guys are really, into this, So again, it's a best way to describe it. It's a way to introduce new characters. Introduce our characters to new readers, and also, give a fun story to old readers.
And also plug our podcast.
Yes, that's it. Yes. We should be on the cover. Do a photo cover. Like the Marvel, the cheesy Marvel covers. Remember I just remember the Spider-Woman one and the Captain America one. Where they did really bad photo covers.
There you go. I think this works.
But wait a minute, we want to sell books.
Okay, so I think we have a basis to we have a story. This is how it works. People watching this think that, there's this great thing where we, go into pondering, but really sometimes a good conversation with a good friend will give you an amazing story. So we have the story. You all know what it is listening to this. The next step is on me, I guess. I'm going to have to start writing this, so I'm going to write this down. Fortunately, I have a vacation coming up. I'm going away for a couple of weeks, and I think I got a couple of 2 or 3 hour airplane trips.
Okay, Chris, so you'll be flying, so that means you'll be bored at the airport, so which means you'll have time to draw, time to write, and mainly writing this 20-page story. Mention that, so in the future episodes, we will be going from step by step on how Chris writes the story, how we draw it, and publishing. So join us in the next few episodes, and we'll be keeping you updated on the progress of this story. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching our video.